Hey guys, it's Spike here. I haven't made a video in a long time, but this is a video I've wanted to make, and I felt like it's time for me, since I'm coming back, to hopefully make more videos more often. I felt it was time for me to make this video. Now, I haven't written any notes as usual, or really gone and thought about this for a long time. I mean, I've thought about it in my head, but I haven't thought about this video for a long time, so please bear with me on this. But I wanted to make a video explaining why and how I became an atheist. And I know not all my subscribers hold atheistic beliefs or skeptical beliefs. This is not meant to discriminate or to put down any of those subscribers, but perhaps maybe put my atheism, hopefully, in better perspective for some of them. And to explain to the atheist community also how I got to become an atheist. So I think it could be valuable to anybody who knows me or knows my videos to understand where I'm coming from. Some of you may know from some of my earlier videos that I used to be a Christian Scientist. I would make videos often condemning more traditional Christianity. However, I was a Christian Scientist. I really had not looked into Christianity and the Bible as much, which is why I was willing to condemn a more traditional perspective on Christianity or other Christian religions. However, I knew a lot about metaphysics and Christian Science. Therefore, I was very much in support of Christian Science and metaphysics. Some of you may or may not know. So I was a very, very devout Christian Scientist. And I decided in 8th grade, based on certain troubles I was having and a willingness to understand more about Christian Science, to become a deeper Christian Scientist, and also, to be 100% honest, to escape a lot of social problems that were honestly worse the next year. I decided to enroll in the Christian Science boarding school known as the Principia. And so I attended this boarding school my freshman year. Um, and even from the moment I went, I knew it wasn't possibly, it might have been not the best idea. Not because of my Christian Science, but just because of my social standings and that I knew it wouldn't actually get better when I got there. And also, to be honest, I had met a girl, not the same girl I'm with now, but I had met a girl over the summer and I didn't want to leave her. Um, but, and I wasn't sure about my decision, but I figured I would go and I would have an awesome time and it would be an awesome year. I would grow spiritually, yada, yada, yada. And so I went. And what I saw there honestly appalled me. The attitudes of some of the people there, whereas I feel like I had been raised inadvertently to hold Christian Scientists in somewhat of a higher respect, a higher esteem in my mind. That somehow Christian Scientists were different people. They were more accepting of others as they were taught to be. And they were taught to be open minded people. And because I honestly believe that Christian Science was just was an open minded, accepting, really loving truth of a religion. And so I when people were there being somewhat of jerks, it kind of appalled me. And also, what appalled me was something that I didn't expect from Christian Science that was a part of traditional Christianity was blatant homophobia and just ignorance towards people who may not hold the same exact Christian Science beliefs or people that may not consider Christian Science to be 100% accurate. For example, if I would present an opinion that would disagree with that of Mrs. Eddy, many of my peers and some of my teachers even would then ask me why I was there if I was to hold a differing opinion from that of Mary Baker Eddy, the founder of Christian Science. And I found this to be shocking because to me, Christian Science had always been somewhat of a spiritual searching, somewhat of a more intellectual side to spirituality where you would work to try to find the answers. And so if my answers would come out and they would support me questioning. They say, "Okay, good, question." And then when I would come up with an answer that was different than that of Mrs. Eddy's, they would very much push Mrs. Eddy's answer on me and say that I was wrong, say that I just didn't understand it. If I ever said that I disagreed with Mary Baker Eddy, I would hear something about I how I got it wrong. And even though I was straight and am still straight, I had a real problem with some of the homophobia. And I know that's not a part of Christian Science itself. I'm not condemning Christian Science itself as homophobic. Certain Christian scientists are, but that's not fair to say about all Christian scientists or all Christians. But I was tired of homophobia, and that's a big part of what got me to think this wasn't right. Got me to think that it wasn't right, and I just didn't like the school anymore. I felt like the school, I was miserable there. I was put down for some of the anger issues that I was really struggling with. And the support that they claimed, I got very little of it because of my stances on certain issues. The way they would say that they were supporting people who were struggling with issues, I instead was mocked. I instead was laughed at for being me. And there were some house pops, the people who ran the halls that we lived on, that were very supportive. And I still have a deep admiration and respect for them for being supportive and for correctly following their beliefs. Because even if their beliefs are erroneous, you should at least respect one who is not a hypocrite. And so, because of these issues, I came home. But I came home with a more open mind and more skeptical. And so eventually, this led me, over time, to consider myself an agnostic. I still believed in a lot of the Christian Science ideas, but I also figured that we can't know that there's a God. And even though I had felt like God had talked to me on multiple occasions, I found this was my conscience talking to me rather than an actual God. More and more I became skeptical of the idea of a God. Also, because I grew so tired with the homophobia, I began to find somewhat of a niche in the atheist community, speaking about such issues and condemning some of the more traditional ideas of Christianity. Some of them pressed me about my beliefs, and while most of them were respectful, there were a couple that were not. But everyone, almost everyone, would press me about them and try to make me understand why they were erroneous. And so, um, and so eventually, this led me to be an agnostic. So, and I eventually went from, agnostic, calling myself agnostic theist with many Christian Science beliefs and values, and anyone on my Facebook page knows that that's what I put, to just straight up agnostic. And then I did more study into whether or not there's a God. In which case, I started reading The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins, which, once I read that chapter on agnosticism, which to any agnostic friends I highly recommend, I decided that it was time for me to call myself an atheist and to start fully rejecting supernatural claims. And from that day, I have done that. I have rejected so many ideas I had held on so strongly to, simply because there was no evidence, and it was the hardest thing for me to do, to let go of some of those ideas. But when I faced reality, I have been able to solve my problems, such as anger, in a more practical fashion, and I have been able to just live a better life when I know I'm not lying to myself. I know I'm not being lied to. Living for the truth, not what people tell me is the truth.